Welcome to the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. Before I get into the headlines for the week of July 8th, 2024, I want to thank this week's episode sponsor, Bark Technologies. We should all be grateful that these days parents have a safer device option for our children. The Bark phone was built for families who are looking to ramp up our child's online safety. It has parental controls built in, allows us to manage our kids' entire digital experience safer. We don't have to go with an iPhone. More on Bark in the episode notes, but let's get into this week's updates. I'll kick us off with a brand new research study that was just published by Frontiers in Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. This study is important for parents who are handing their children devices to calm them down, something that I used to do a lot. So this study shows that when we hand our kids a device to calm them down, there are huge short-term and long-term effects. The more often we use a screen to calm them, the more they are unable to control their levels of anger and frustration. They lose their ability to choose a reaction and instead display automatic responses, which can look like tantrums or screaming. We all know what happens when we try to take a device away from a child who uses it frequently. The study showed that children can fall into a feedback loop, which results in increased dependence on digital devices and tech addiction later on in life, and kids can also suffer from anger management issues as they get older. So in summary, the researchers concluded that digital devices are inappropriate for curing tantrums. I really dug into screen time for younger children in many of my recent episodes. I spoke with researcher Dr. John Hutton and therapist Andrea Brambilla and child safety advocate Tanya Jordan and a few others. One big lesson that I've learned that I think is an important takeaway: how our kids interact with technology in their adolescent years and when they're older. It doesn't start when we give them a phone. It starts as babies. The choices we make in handing our babies and toddlers devices, it changes the way that their brain is wired. I encourage parents to listen to my interviews, do your own research, think long and hard about these decisions that may seem easy and harmless in the moment, but it can have long-lasting, lifelong effects on our children. So there was a big FTC ruling this week that parents should know about. The Federal Trade Commission, for the first time ever, has banned an online service from serving users under the age of 18, saying that this app violated child privacy and harmed children and teenagers. The app that they banned from minors is an anonymous app called NGL, or Not Gonna Lie. An anonymous app means that users receive anonymous messages from other users. The app is free to download, but NGL pushes kids to pay to get useless hints about who is messaging them. And NGL charges $10 per week for the pro subscription. The FTC found a host of deceptive practices within NGL, which I'm going to briefly talk about. But the light bulb going off here should be: check your child's phone for the NGL app and delete it, block it. It's bad. The biggest issue is that NGL was sending fake notifications to users to lure them back to the site. When NGL launched in 2021, they only had 1,000 downloads, so they sent these fake messages luring the user back. Messages like, "Are you straight?" or "I know what you did," or "One of your friends is hiding something from you." These were computer-generated, AI-generated messages, and after blasting out these fake messages, consumer engagement grew to the millions. NGL markets itself as a safe app for children and teens, but complaints about NGL piled up related to cyberbullying, threats against the young users, self-harm, and suicide attempts, which is to be expected when the whole point of your app is to encourage anonymous interactions. And there have been many reports of children taking their own lives after being cyberbullied using anonymous apps like NGL, like Carson Bride, and you can hear his story through my conversation with his mom, Kristen. Even NGL employees have spoken out about the deception. NGL is also in violation of KOSA, meaning that they knowingly collected and maintained personal information from children under 13. So NGL has to pay a large fine and make some changes, but despite all of this, NGL pushes forward saying, quote, "We view this FTC resolution as an opportunity to make NGL better than ever for our users." Listen, NGL and other anonymous apps are very dangerous for kids. Please make sure they're not on your child's phone. Next up, big in the news this week was an all-out TikTok attack by middle school students on their teachers. So in Malvern, Pennsylvania, middle school students set up fake TikTok accounts impersonating about 20 of their teachers. And on these accounts, these 12 and 13-year-old children posted about pedophilia, racist memes, homophobia, and made up sexual hookups between teachers. Several of these students were suspended, but is that enough? This shows us very clearly that when young kids use social media, they are trained to think that behavior like this is okay. They're encouraged to be anonymous and push boundaries, and this time they went too far. This type of cyberbullying of students against teachers has been escalating all over the country, and much of it is happening during school hours. One way we can help fix this is to ban phones in schools. So the latest state to ban phones is Virginia. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin issued a new executive order just this week that will limit or ban cell phone use in public schools. Schools have until January 1st of 2025 to establish guidelines for a cell phone-free education in order to promote a healthier and more focused educational environment. As with all phone bans, the only way this will work is if the school actually locks up the phones so the kids cannot access them during the school day. I've talked to dozens and dozens of teachers and administrators about this. Typically, when a school implements a phone ban, they leave it up to the teachers to regulate phones in the classroom. This does not work. It's a disaster in every single school. I am encouraged to see more states moving in the right direction on the issue of phones in the classroom, but can we be bold enough to do it right? Only time will tell. Last update for this week. We are on the clock to get a very important bill passed that will protect kids online. And parents always want to know, what can I do to keep my kids safe online? Well, I'm going to tell you what you can do, and you can do it today. So the bill I referenced is called the Kids Online Safety Act, or KOSA. It has 70 co-sponsors in the Senate on both sides of the aisle. It's been pushed and pulled and thrown around for over 2 years now, falling victim to a lot of big tech lobbying. And in the meantime, more children have been harmed and killed because of their social media use. They could have been protected if KOSA was passed. KOSA will save lives, and we need to get it passed before Congress is out of session in August. There is one senator who is blocking KOSA at the moment, and that is Senator Rand Paul. I posted about this on Instagram, and a few people asked, what is Senator Paul's issue with KOSA? He seems like a reasonable guy. I will tell you, Senator Paul did not get involved in any of the negotiations about KOSA for the past 2 years, and all of a sudden, he demanded some significant changes, such as he wants to give state attorneys general the ability to pursue legal action based on the duty of care. The attorney generals were removed from the duty of care portion of KOSA a year ago to alleviate the concerns of the LGBTQ plus community. There was concern that some radical attorneys general might use the bill to attack trans websites. This is an important part of KOSA to protect this community, and something that Senator Paul wants to add back in. Another point of Senator Paul's is that all the terms used in the duty of care portion of KOSA, like depression, compulsion, anxiety, are defined based on the DSM-5. Paul wants the definitions to be written within the bill so they cannot be changed over time. When the American Psychiatric Association makes changes, this seems to be really about the Republicans believing that the APA is a radical liberal organization. So that's that. But it's important to also note that Senator Paul's lead counsel on this issue used to work for NetChoice. NetChoice is an organization that is very anti-tech regulation and is funded by social media companies. So I'm calling out Senator Rand Paul for being infiltrated by big tech and putting big tech's pocketbook over our children's lives. Parents have to push this through. Our voices are the only thing that will hold weight against the power of big tech and stop the harms from happening. So here's what you can do. You can call Senator Paul's office in DC and ask him to stop blocking KOSA. His phone number is 202-224-4343. That is it for this week on the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. I will be in touch next week with more updates.